blah blah. Okay, let me get in a sport and do this. Oh, now wait a minute. If you do that in a sport, that's illegal. And if you do it like this, so now I mean you're trying to handcuff.
Yeah.
Basically an uncivilized thing. You
Yep.
can't do that. You know.
Yeah, but you can do that, and you just turned pro.
I love that.
So, what is the difference in the professional Torrez Finney and the amateur? Like, what's the next steps? I know that you got the management team now. I'm assuming they're involved. I know you're training at Agoge. I know they're involved. I know you got coaches. I know they're involved. But what's the next step? There's got to be a game plan.
Well, the game plan now is to take each fight, fight by fight, basically, because it's funny. I am trying. It's actually like a little slightly breaking news, but I'm trying to fight my first pro fight in February in my hometown in Macon, Georgia.
Okay,
that's where I was born, and that would be a really big event. And we're trying to get that settled away. We're trying to get the venue, everything else, but I'm trying to fight in my hometown in February. My manager, as we've been talking, he was like, I probably have from like 2 to 3 more local fights left to where I can fight like in Chatt or probably at home in Macon. He was like, now, because he said I'm getting like a little small of a buzz to other promotions around, the U.S. trying to fight. A lot of guys trying to fight.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm happy for that. I am. I'm glad. But we want to try to take each step differently because I'm not trying to force myself or get pushed a little bit too fast. Me and my coaches have already talked about it. There's a lot of guys, especially a lot of guys on the local scene, that get offers to, hey, 6 days notice, go fight in Bellator.
Mm-hmm.
You think that sounds good,
Mm-mm.
but it's not. Oh, man, 1 week's notice, UFC fight. You get to fight on the main card.
Mm-hmm.
You might think that, oh, man, that's a great opportunity. You go in there, beat him, you make a name. Yeah, that might sound good and dandy, but we know we all are real and realists. I mean, you don't want to take a fight on short days' notice. So that's one thing one of my coaches and my management team is keeping me away from. They don't want me fighting on a week's notice, 8 days notice, a week's notice.
You need a camp.
Yeah, I want a camp. Like anytime I'm fighting somebody, that's the reason why I got PKP. Like I have them, we have a process to an 8-week fight camp. So in the span of those 8 weeks, heck, even if we knock it down to 7 or 6, that's still a lot.
Yeah.
So we have a process from them weeks, and we gradually build up.
Mm-hmm.
So when we gradually build up, as this last fight camp for me, dealing with PKP, Brian Ring was also doing it. He was helping me on my nutrition. We had the workouts planned. Gannon had these workouts planned, and I do these workouts that help me build up my cardio.
Mm-hmm.
And it helps me build up my cardio. It helps me build up my power. It helps me stay explosive. Me working on these things that I use within a fight. Heck, we was doing a drill where I would push sleds, come back and pick up the heavy dummy as if I'm taking somebody down constantly 6 times back and forth because I do that a lot in my fights anyway.
Yep.
I'm always, utilizing my explosiveness to take people down. So
I think everybody saw that against Andre.
I think yep. If you didn't, you blinked.
So I'm using that, but they're like you said, they're building the workouts around the way that I actually train. So I never want to go into a fight on short days' notice against another professional who's probably have had 4 or 5 weeks. Now, not saying that I can't do it because that's the reason why I train every single day. Mm-hmm. That's the reason why I'm always in the gym. So if I do get a shorter notice call, to me, shorter notice for me is going to be 4 weeks.
Okay.
That's the least amount I'll ever take.
That's a non-negotiable between your management team, your coaches, strength and
4
conditioning.
weeks.
I'll take a quick fight. 4 weeks. You got a month.
4 weeks. Yeah, that's it. Because to me, I want to always have my 8 weeks because we have a plan. 7 weeks, no problem. 6 weeks, no problem. But we have a plan, and I want to stick to that plan. I'm not a guy that just start getting off the plan and like, oh, let's do this. Every fight camp I had ever since I've gotten with PKP, I've done that. And we've done the 8-week fight camp. And every fight, I mean, I feel like from what I've shown, I've gradually grown in each fight. You can see a difference in my appearance. You can see a difference in my cardio. You can see a difference in the way I fight. And it comes from not only me just training my skills at Agoge, but me training outside, strength and conditioning, cardio. Dealing that with PKP has helped me become a better fighter. I feel like when the 5-round fight when they called it. As I've been working, man, working out and in training, like that fight could have went 5 rounds, and I would have been just as the 5-round Finney you saw against TK. You wouldn't even saw that guy in the 5th round looking the way he looked. He would have been completely different in the 5th round, in this upcoming fight.
Well, and this one was different too with Finney training because he was making that big weight cut. You know, he was dropping from 208 to 185.
Yeah.
So you know, you got to train different. Like you can't train. You know, most time Finney fights at 205. He walks around at 205, so he can pretty much do and train as he pleases. But now, you know, between the nutrition aspect with Brian and some of this work they were doing, compared to mixing it in with like, all right, what do we need to do? Like, because it's all about the energy system. I'm not trying to get too scientific because
No, I love it. This is my stuff.
Yeah. So it's all about the energy system and what is a carb? What is a calorie? It's energy.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to fuel that tank. So if you're not able to eat as much or carb up as much, like you can't train the same way. So what Gannon is able to do is actually balance that out with what his schedule is. And that's what we try to do at PKP a lot, is not just talk to you, but talk to your coaches, with our athletes. I mean, we've talked to physicians, like what are they doing with this? Talking to their teachers, like what does their schedule look like? Because you have to balance those stressors, because that's how people get hurt. What happens is you take on so many stressors, and everybody thinks the stressor fighting is getting punched or getting hit. But no, I mean, it's cutting weight. It's dealing with promoting yourself. It's, you know, if you got a family, it's stress with the kids, stress with the wife, stress with work. And you got to balance those. That's all the way from Finney all the way down to you know, Miss Patty down the road. That's just trying to get a workout. Like if she's out there, you know, got 3-4 kids, you have to balance that. So that's what we had to do with Finney with this. So, you know, it does get trickier than what people think than just hitting some power cleans and picking up the heavy bag.
Right.
You know, so that's what I feel like PKP does different. And Finney's so good at following both sides of it, both nutrition, you know, was hydrating well, doing everything you got to do. So that's why it's so fun to work with athletes like that.
A coachable athlete, right? Somebody that no matter what you say to do, he's going to do it.
Oh, it's
that's the guys you want to deal with, because that lets you know if your plan's going to work. You don't want the guys that are naturally just really gifted and strong or look good or they're going to win their fights and then just they promote your product because they're just good. You don't want those guys.
Yeah.
You want guys that are going through the program, doing what you're going to do.
And I felt different. Like I kept telling people, like, the moment I made the cut, because we got Tyler Minton. Tyler Minton is the guy that does the UFC weight cuts. And Brian, so Tyler does the stuff virtually. He sends us the plan, and you got to follow it. So I had Brian, a person in person I'm actually able to talk to and see.
Yep.
He was the one that was able to get me the help me on what to eat, how, like when to eat it, and that stuff throughout that plan. So when weight cut time came, the water weight, it just shoosh, went off me. Like I was drinking 2 gallons of water every single day the week of the fight, and then I was at 198, and it was crazy because Tyler Mint was like, eat every 3 hours. I'm like, eat every 3 hours. I'm like, dang it.
How much are you eating? Explain this whole thing to me.
Okay, so this is the
5 days out.
5 days out. All right, 2 gallons of water every single day. And that's harder than what most people think. So don't think 2 gallons of water.
It's really hard.
That is really
Super
hard.
Drink a gallon. Most you people out there can't do that.
Yeah, they want me to do that. Like drinking a gallon was hard, but I had to drink that gallon every day throughout the camp almost. So that was starting to get hard. But man, once he said 2 gallons, I'm like, woo! So I did the 2 gallons. You do 2 gallons every day, but you eat every 3 hours. So this is what you eat: 2 proteins and 3 fats. So what I was eating either a steak, some grilled chicken, and a lot
of a ribeye or a sirloin. Probably a sirloin.
It's probably a sirloin.
Okay.
Actually, a ribeye wouldn't be bad because it has the fats on it, so it wouldn't be bad.
All right.
But either or, and then I'll eat eggs. Eggs.
Whole egg?
No, scrambled.
But the whole egg.
Oh, the whole egg.
Okay,
yes, the whole egg.
Gotcha.
Yes, So I'll eat like 3 to 5 of those.
Okay.
And it put cheese on them. He said put a lot of cheese on them, and he said use salt and pepper.
So the sodium.
Yes. Now a lot of people that do weight cuts, they always talk about stay away from salt, stay away from the sodium, because that helps the water stick. And I'm like, I've heard that a lot. So this is my first ever weight cut. So I'm sitting here like, I don't know if I should be still eating the salt. But I texted him, I was like, is it good for me to eat salt on these eggs or on my steak? Yes, eat salt. And I'm like, woo, this is crazy. And then the day before weigh-in, see, I'm still at 198. He was like, eat every 3 hours. And I was like, I'm going to start cutting tonight at 8. He's like, okay, you stop eating at 7. So I'm like, eat every 3 hours the day before weigh-ins. I'm sitting here because it's funny when you talk about a plan. I'm not going to lie. I'm sitting here thinking this stuff is not going to work.
Yeah.
But I'm going to follow it just because he told me to eat every 3 hours. So I was eating like steak with cheese and.
Like how much steak?
Oh, so you ever had a rice bowl at Chipotle?
Yep.
Dos Bros.
Mm-hmm.
So I got one of those Dos Bros bowls, filled it up with nothing but chicken and steak, put cheese on top, queso cheese into it, guacamole, and put some more steak on top. So it was a lot of food.
Yeah.
But I'll eat something like that every 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And then once the weight cut started, I got in the sauna. And you talking about just water, it felt like a waterfall. It just said whoosh. And like water just coming off me crazy. And so by the end of that night, I went from 198 to 189. And then I finished up the rest of the weight cut in the morning. He wanted me to do half and half. So when I got on the scale for weigh-ins, I went from 198 to 185.2 in the span of 12 hours. And I felt actually good. It was crazy. Most people, when they cut weight, they feel drained.
Mm-hmm.
I actually wasn't that drained.
Like the toxins were out of you?
Yeah, it was crazy how it worked. It was actually, I was sitting here like, is this real?
Yeah.
Like it worked. And then we did the rehydration process. So I weighed myself the day before the fight. I got in that cage weighing 200 pounds. Mm-hmm. So I went from 185 to the day of the fight, 200 pounds. So I gained 15 pounds back. And I felt good, man. I mean, I felt like that was the best I ever looked. And
you look good.
I felt good.
Yeah.
I felt like this was, and I wasn't able to be as part of as much as your camp this time, unfortunately, because I'd hurt my ankle my last fight. Plus, we're just getting that facility ready. But I kind of liked it though, because it gave me that stint. You know, when you train with somebody every day, you kind of get used to what they do and like getting to see them. So it's like, you know, that's just Finney being Finney. But kind of when you look outside in, not training them with, you know, for about a month, and I got to see him. I mean, and I always hold mitts for him right before his fights. I mean, he felt powerful. Yeah. And this guy I went with every single day, but he felt a lot more powerful, a lot more in shape. Mm-hmm. I think this fight for him was the best, just the whole top to bottom. Because one of the tricky things about Finney is like he's so passionate and he's so competitive that like he's almost like, you know, like when you see football teams and they're coming out the stadium, the coach, you got some like GA or something, they're like holding him back because they're like that really is how he is. I mean, you have to, like, you can't hype the dude up. And in fighting, you never know what the intermission is going to be like. So in past fights, you know, intermission might take 30, 45 minutes. And if he's hyped up, you hit that peak.
Yeah. Then you
kind of dump.
Yeah.
So, you know, we kind of have to gradually, like, so probably every 5-10 minutes, all right, hey, let's hit the pads, lock up, Matt would come back there. So I felt like he did a great job in this fight specifically as far as controlling those emotions. I mean, he was very calm, very, you know, like still hyped up, but he did a great job of controlling it because those dumps, you know how they are, man. I mean, I didn't believe it until I took my first fight. And I played a lot of football. I played a lot of different sports. That adrenaline dump of a one-on-one competition in that type setting is something I never felt.